We go ahead and get a roll call, please.
Yes. Beja McLennan. Jenna Boragine. Spilsky.
Here.
Cook.
You're not gonna sit at the table?
Cheryl Dickey. Ron Drew. Joellen Felmus here. Lee Fitzgerald. Tom Freeman.
Here.
Ariana Glassman. Robert Kiesler.
Here.
Ina Lee.
Present.
Carol Lundgren. Matthew McNeil. Denny Mondion. David Muir. Melissa Milroy. Here.
Ron Drew just entered.
Okay. James Pancella.
Here.
Thomas Park.
Here.
Tim Petrillo.
Here.
Bobby Rodriguez.
Here.
Christine Sovereigns. Here. Raylan Story.
It's late. Do we have a quorum?
We do.
Okay, great. So with the quorum, may I get the approval of the meeting minutes from last meeting? So moved. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, approved. All right, so I would like to take this time to congratulate Stacy. She just has been awarded the Legend of the Year from the HSMIA, which is a tri-county organization. So a big round of applause for Stacy. Our very own legend. And now can we have a message from our legend?
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I just wanted to fill you in a little bit on some of the budget issues that we're going to most likely be experiencing or anticipated to be experiencing in the coming fiscal year. Our fiscal year starts October 1st, so we've submitted our budget to the Office of Management and Budget at the county and the county administrator. One of our budgets is flat. The other budget has a 5% budget reduction. We don't know at this time which one is going to be accepted by the county commission, in part because if you've been following the news, you know that the legislature, which is in special session, although not meeting this month, was unable to pass a budget in the regular session. Of course, the only constitutionally required obligation that the Florida legislature has in the Florida Constitution is to pass a balanced budget. The one thing that they're required to do, they could not accomplish. So they have to pass the budget by June 30th. Actually, they really have to pass the budget before that. So the governor has time to go through and veto. Our governor has a line item veto. So for some of the project appropriations. So everything is up in the air. The legislature did debate during the regular session, taking the TDT and using it for property tax relief for Florida residents. Our own data guru, Ted, had actually done an analysis of what he would have, the tax relief he would have experienced in that situation. He would have gotten a $37 tax break on his property taxes. So thanks to the legislature for all that relief for us Floridians. It looks like the Florida Senate doesn't like that proposal. So it's unlikely that it will pass this year, but as anybody who follows the legislature even tangentially knows, issues never die. They sometimes take 3 or 4 years to pass. So we expect it'll come back even if it doesn't make it in this session. And as a result, county administration is very hesitant to give us money, which we actually may not have next year, depending on what the legislature does. I mean, we don't know how Visit Lauderdale would be funded if the tourist development tax was taken away and provided for property tax relief. So we're sort of up in the air. Because of that, and having said that, I want you to know a couple of big ticket items that are coming down to us. Last week, the tourist development count. Do you want to do that now, or you want to do that later?
Let's do it now.
You want to do it now?
Yeah.
I'm just going to tee it up for you and ask you for some guidance about how you would like Visit Lauderdale to negotiate this or travel through this on this path. Last week, the Tourist Development Council heard presentations from FIFA World Cup 2026, the Miami FIFA Committee, with an ask for $2.4 million to partner with the Miami World Cup and FIFA as a sponsor. And then the what used to be called the Bowl Championship Series, which is now the College Football Championship
CSP.
game, CSP, is taking place in January of 26 at Hard Rock Stadium as well. They asked for $1 million. That's obviously I don't do math well, but that's $3.4 million that two entities are asking for. That doesn't even scratch the surface of organizations that come to us during the fiscal year and ask for things, and the TDC that sees those asks all the time. We did what we always do. We got the application from both FIFA and from the championship series. We vetted it internally. We determined that we would offer $249,000 to each one of those entities because that's the signing authority for the CVB. Anything over 250 and over 250 to 500 goes to the county administrator. Over 500 goes to the county commission. We just wanted. They both wanted a recommendation from the CVB. I had suggested they both go directly to the county commission because nobody other than the commission has the authority to approve those amounts. They wanted something from the CVB. Neither one of them were happy. The TDC did have a conversation about it, but they are going to be going to the county commission anyway, which is the natural progression of things. FIFA will be making a delegation presentation, I think the last meeting in May, which is basically a 3-minute here's what we're asking for from the commission and the commission will not be doing anything at that particular meeting because there's going to have to be an actual motion to approve agenda item on the commission, which FIFA is not ready and the commission is not ready for. But also before the commission breaks in June, the college championship game will be coming to the county commission asking for that $1 million. There are a couple of issues to talk about. You know, how much do you want to give them? What would you recommend? Depending on the deliverables.
Which is a problem because they came with no deliverables. They came with an ask and they didn't outline anything or any benefit or direct benefit that our area would get. And that was a big problem for TDC.
And we had spoken to the TDC about the Taylor Swift effect, which was the Taylor Swift three concerts she did earlier this year or last year. We spent no money marketing it. We got 49% of the room nights. So we know we're going to get room nights from both of these. Soccer is 6 weeks, by the way.
Yeah.
We don't know what games we're getting. We know the best game we'll be getting is the bronze level game. The final match goes to New York City. So we know we'll be getting something. We don't know where the teams are staying. We don't know what the teams are yet. We won't know until December, those issues. We believe that there is some benefit to partnering with FIFA for their intellectual property, their logos, putting our logos next to their logos. But FIFA owns the stadium and everything inside. So there'll be no branding from any other. There'll be no branding from us inside the stadium, and the stadium is renamed the Miami Stadium during the 6 weeks of the tournament as required by FIFA rules as well. Just, you know, with the college championship series, we partner with the Orange Bowl every single year. They're very good partners. They come back year after year. The championship game, they're going to try to get again in 30. But it's basically the same dynamic. You know, people are going to stay here no matter what we do or do not do. But what's really important is to get up the pulse of what the marketing advisory committee would like us to do. Yeah. We do have a marketing plan to market ourselves during leading up to World Cup to let people know they should stay here, even though the games may not be here, that they should stay here. We have 3 different pathways that we're considering to spend up to $1 million for that kind of marketing. But that's not the FIFA path. So
yeah, and I would just echo that FIFA was let's just say they were pretty aggressive on their approach. When we talked about, well, how much is it going to cost to partner and use your IP for this so we can promote it, they said if you don't come in for the $2.5 million, you don't get to use it. So basically they somewhat drew a line in the sand, which we were all kind of surprised about because they didn't have any deliverables. We didn't know what we were getting. They didn't tell us that we're going to be a training facility. They said that we haven't announced that, although Palm Beach announced yesterday that they're a training facility. So there's a lot of unknowns, and I would make a suggestion that the MAC supports the FIFA so long as we understand what we're getting and the cost of that, which is to be seen. So, I would just say that. And also with the, there's going to be a lot of things that come in front of TDC and come in front of the county that are outside our purview. I mean, like knock on wood, if the Panthers win it again, there's going to be an ask to support the parade. You know, those types of things come up all the time, and that's way outside of our budget. So, you know, we definitely need to be conscious of what and how we're spending and investing the right dollars. So, that's about it.
I'm not on the TDC. I was at that meeting. The thing that I was left with is even though we did 249,000, whatever it is, we get virtually nothing for that. We can't use any of their stuff, okay, unless we ante up a whole lot more money, which is what Tim just said. It just was, just give us money, and you know, it did. That was, you know, what I walked away from that meeting is like, what are you giving us, and why are we spending a huge chunk of our money right now when we're going to need every dime right now, folks? Okay, for marketing this destination, particularly with a 5% kick reduction. So.
I would like to hear from the hoteliers of, is there a benefit to have the FIFA brand on us? From my perspective, it's coming here, right? And I don't know how we're going to benefit greatly being a part of it at the highest level. Okay. I don't see the return on that versus what we're already going to get. Now, do I believe we should participate? Of course, I think we should participate because of the unity of the community and everything else. But at the same time, I'd like to hear from your purview.
I think we're gonna be the redheaded stepchild again.
Yep.
Everything's gonna be Miami. I think we should participate, but not $2.4 million. I think that's outrageous.
Mhm.
College championship, you know, we pass on it every year only because it's right during our highest season.
Yeah.
It would mess us up because they demand, if they want to take a team,
Mhm.
we've got to hold space for 2 weeks beforehand. And then we have to go back to them and ask for it. We can't afford to do that.
Right.
So we pass on that and
Pass on hosting the team.
on hosting a team or hosting anything with the champion.
Do you see any lift from people?
We see lift from
Attending it?
people be there.
Yeah.
But we're gonna have people here anyhow.
Yeah.
Comes, you know, during
It's January.
yeah,
Yeah.
and especially the championship comes in the mid
Like the 14th.
yeah, it's pushed back.
It's
If it was like right after the first,
yeah, that's
different, 'cause there's a lull there.
See, the Orange Bowl is right after. That's the first, like the fourth.
Right.
And then the national championship, which rotates around the country, is the week after that. So
Right.
it's in the 14th to the
Right.
17th weekend.
Right.
So
So
hotel side, the first week is where
Yeah, but you need help.
to book business.
Yep.
folks. That once you get in the second week in January.
Yep.
We're full from there. So
So, okay.
What about
Yeah, just-
for
A little bit.
the other one, the ones asking 2.5 million? Do you get any lift from them?
that's crazy, $2.5 million. I'll be honest with you, I mean, 249. I mean,
Yeah.
they don't tell you what you get for 2.5.
No, that's what,
So we surveyed for all of our centers that are around the country in the big market. So we did some surveying. We talked to FIFA.
Joel, can you talk a little bit louder, please?
We have centers right across the country, and wherever FIFA is going in big areas, we looked and we spoke to those FIFA organizations, LA, Dallas, et cetera, et cetera. And we found the consistency in the request for the funding, right, in the millions, for the ability to associate with the FIFA name. I think what we found back is that it didn't give us, from our business perspective, what really was going to be a good benefit from it, quite honestly. I think it's a very wise thing to look at why people should stay here and base themselves here. So what we've learned just from our conversations is that people will come, they're going to pick a hub, right? And then they're going to go to different games and follow the different games as well. So I think there's a good value in actually looking at a marketing campaign for our destination to the audience that's going to come and really looking at what our message is for us.
and I do believe there's a plan for that. There is a plan for that.
Yeah.
And we just have to be cautious because if we're not aligning with FIFA, we can't use the world. There's certain IP that they have FIFA World Cup, things like that, but
Yeah, but you can flip it on its head and take that same amount of marketing money and
they
just
do.
target people in destination, and you can,
Yes.
you can follow the algorithm of who's planning the trip to the area, and you can just target them.
Exactly.
And you could probably get a lot further with heads and beds, turning the money on that direction if they won't promise you any.
That's kind of what the consensus was at the TUC. So,
Tim might follow the same thing. The price tag is too much.
okay, well, good. All right, well, so Stacy, we have an understanding of how we feel. So with that, I'd like to get into the stats from Dr. Ted Bogler.
All right, thanks very much. Hotel metrics, we had a pretty miserable March, but it was followed up with a fairly strong April. Easter shifted. It was in March last year. It was in April this year. But really, it's been very, very positive based on sort of expectation past then. And it's going fairly strong as well into May. Again, seen a little bit of that. So the when you look at the numbers, the fact that we're up in daily rate, occupancy, and RevPAR kind of year to date is certainly a positive thing. So we are expecting things to deteriorate, but again, we've seen positive things recently that have moved results to a better place than we might have thought. In terms of the forecast, my March forecast, which was made last February, was down almost 10% in RevPAR on a year over year, or sort of for actual versus the forecast. When you put March and April together, it was only down 4%. So I'm in the process of redoing our forecast for the destination. The kind of the straw man that I have right now is down about 6%. So that's kind of where my head is at based on what I've seen and what's coming back, because and people are likely to be spending less. When it comes from a tariff perspective, I sort of did some math at a high level. Chinese goods, there are carve outs, but at a high level, Chinese goods are at 30%, Mexico and Canada are 25%. They make up 40% of our imports. If I put in 10% for everybody else, that comes out to about 17% in sort of tariff impact. It was 2.5 last year. So just sort of high level math again. There are carve outs for that. It will be less. That said, it is material. You will feel it. People will feel it. Some researchers at Yale have said it's going to be about $2,800 per person in a year. So again, redoing the forecast. It's not as bad as I thought it was based on March, but I need to do it down. The thing that's interesting is international is not down as far as we feared, and not in line with what they were saying. And domestic has sort of filled in a decent amount of it. So we're a little bit better off. But again, the fear of recession is there. It's ratcheted down, but it is still kind of living it out there. I think JP Morgan Chase is the ones that I look. There's a commercial one I look at. They say they're just under 50. So I think it's pretty much a coin toss. In terms of TDT revenue, we're coming in a little bit lower because the revenue's coming in a little bit lower, but obviously it peaked up in there, but we are still telling the same story. It is on about a similar trajectory, expected to go down a little bit as we head into the summer period, but again, still looking relatively robust. Did a couple of events, did the air show, looked at this. Kind of the message sort of takeaway here is it's an 80% local, with 80% of people coming from Palm Beach County, Broward, and Miami-Dade. It's a good impact. Yes.
But that's the same weekend as F1 too, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, so I didn't look at the hotel stats. This is basically saying how many people are coming here, what is their what percentage of them is coming from somewhere else and staying in hotels and flying, etc. So yeah, this is independent. If I'd thrown hotel stats up there, it would have been horribly skewed, particularly, as you get to Hollywood, etc. In terms of Tortuga, did it. Tortuga had an amazing bounce back. BBID is the Beach Improvement District. So 92% of the hotels visited are in that area. So there's a lot of hotel activity. There's a lot of non-local attendance. It is a fabulous event. I can't say enough about it. And after an odd year last year, it is back and back and booming. So like I say, kudos to that event for sure. And I will turn it over.
Any
Do you
questions?
have any
for Ted?
questions for me?
Right. As always, thank you, Ted. All right, so we have a couple special guests here today. Mark Gale is going to do a presentation about the airport. So we haven't had a presentation on the airport for a while, and we've asked about that. So
Looks like whatever.
oh, is it Port Everglades on the agenda? Okay, so I'm sorry, Miss Ellen Kennedy from the port. We're gonna have you do your presentation first.
All right, where do you want me to stand?
Be up here by the being here.
Or
Thank
something.
you for coming and see us today. Yeah, I know. We had said that. So I said I'm by the agenda.
Okay.
So thank you for inviting me here today. This is great. Our port director, CEO and port director, Joseph Morris, is giving a presentation to our employees right now. So that was on the books for quite a while, and he's committed to sticking with his employee messages. So that's why I'm here. But I'm happy to be here and happy to share whatever information I can. We actually had a really good March. We were up 15% in cruise passengers, but I don't think that translates the same. So okay, so cruise trends for today. I want to start with a short, very short video so you can see what happens. Oops. So I want to start with a short video that shows you what happens in the evening, early in the morning. This is what happens at the port, but I am not sure how to make this go. Okay. There. This is what happens. We've got Disney coming in. Celebrity ship, smaller one, he's still that small. That looks like it was Royal Caribbean. Anyway, you can see how fast the ships, well, they don't put this half, but they come one after another. It's a beautiful sight. The ships are all lit up, and nobody gets to see one is there that. And this Crystal, which returned to the port this year, was a luxury line. They went back into business. They went to Miami the first year, and then we had them come over here. Right, to push the button. Let's see what happens. Okay, there we go. So these are all the brands that we have coming to Port Everglades. Disney is making a huge impact, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Celebrity. We're still very big in luxury brands with Ritz and Crystal, Viking, Silver Sea. Okay, so we're setting records. Last year, I'll be honest with you, we were a little bit surprised to have broken our own record of 4 million passengers. So this year we budgeted for 4.4 million passengers. I think we'll get there. Next year, it's not up here. Oh yeah, it is up here. Next year, we're budgeting for 4.7 million passengers. And that's going to keep growing, we hope. We have a limited amount of space, a limited number of cruise terminals. The ships are getting bigger and the cruise lines are getting smarter. They are realizing that they do a really great job with getting return guests. And those guests are used to coming for 7 nights. They're having a tough time getting the younger folks and the new cruisers. They've always had this problem. This past year, I think they figured it out. They've offered shorter cruises on their newer ships. Typically, shorter cruises were on old ships. They weren't as exciting. They weren't making the news. Now they're offering on the brand new ships 3, 4, 5 night cruises. So they're getting higher volumes. We're seeing more traffic at the port, and it's been really positive. Parking, as a result, people are driving because it's only $20 a night to park at the port. It's cheaper than taking an Uber. It's definitely cheaper than flying. So we're seeing a bigger drive market, and they're filling up our parking spaces. We opened up 750 spaces, I think, 2 years ago, and it's filled. I mean, we're doing gangbusters. That's also up 15%. And then during the slower months, I think a couple of years ago, we only had 2 ships. We typically had 3 ships. Now we're up to 5 ships. So we're working on it. It's the same thing that you guys feel. The summer months are slow. So Disney, that was a game changer for us, obviously. They're sailing year round. They're bringing out their new ship, Disney Destiny, which is making all kinds of headlines, and it's heroes and villains. And it's coming out in November, and it will sail year round. So you'll have it, the brand new ship, it's all the buzz, probably sold out, sailing year round. And their ship that is sailing now, Disney Dream, is going to go seasonal. So we'll have 2 ships on a regular basis. This year we had 2 ships periodically when Magic, one of their older ships, came in. But now we'll have the brand new ship come to Port Everglades, and we're Disney's second home port. So it's pretty exciting. Definitely a game changer. I skipped over it, but LNG, which is a cleaner fuel, Disney is now using it in their new ships. Princess started using it last year with the Sun Princess, which came in, and that was a big headliner. Unfortunately, came in during a hurricane that never happened on Milton, and so they didn't get quite the show that they wanted to. But this year they're coming in with Star Princess, also an LNG ship, also the biggest of Princess's line. So that's 4,300 passengers. That's 2 people in a room. If they bring children or, you know, grandparents, whatever, you would get over 100% occupancy. Disney does that all the time. And Celebrity is bringing its 5th Edge class ship here. So Edge is always the most exciting Celebrity ships. And here you are, we're having the 5th one. It's going to be named here. I don't know who Godmother is yet, but this is the 5th ship to be named here. And that's bragging rights for us. We love that. And then big news is coming next November. So a year from November, we're getting our first Icon class ship. That is Royal Caribbean's largest sized ship, bigger than the Oasis class. That's going to be a challenge. Curbside. That's gonna be a lot of luggage to handle. So I mentioned in here the crew members. I think we overlook how much the crew members contribute to our economy. I don't have a study on it, but with that many people coming in and being, you know, here to spend money, they don't spend money on board the ship, so they like to buy things, send them home. We need to probably pay a little bit more attention to those folks.
And get it from Ross on 17th
Oh,
Street.
Ross, oh my gosh. And
They'll tell you.
I think
They'll
that
tell you how much it
Alfred's is #1 in the country.
Yeah. Bubblers. I mean, look at that face.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, something new that we added this year. It's just happening. Okay, good. So we added this parking map because we kept getting people getting confused. So you go to our parking page, you click there. You go to whichever terminal that you want to go to, and it shows you arriving and then dropping off your luggage and then go into that cruise terminal. So I think it might just do it again. I don't know. Terminal 18. So there's a little blue line, drop your people and, you know, your guests and your luggage off and then go park. So that's actually been very well received. We showed it at Cruise 360 and the travel agents went wild for it. They were pretty happy. See that. Go on. Okay, and then I threw in some slides on statistics. We did a study in 23. Sharon Dickey was very involved. She did all the work. And I just pulled a few slides that I thought you might be interested in. We have done 2 surveys of passengers since I've been here for 25 years. So it's not like we do it very often. We find out that ports generally don't do it at all. So this is what we found. So we're pretty proud of this. So what you can see is that the Southeast is our main market. It's a big drive market. And then you see all the other places where guests come from. International, of course, it was Canada was our big market, has been. That was 2015. Then we have this one, which is, this is after the cruise. Oh, and you know what? I skipped a slide. I didn't have what was this year, but it's pretty much the same. Canada is still our biggest market. This is where they go afterwards, after their cruise. So you see that a lot of them stay here in Fort Lauderdale or they stay in South Florida. Orlando, of course, is another big place, and then Miami and other places in Florida. And where did you come from today? So a lot of locals cruising, a lot of people that are staying in hotels or vacation rentals. It's down though, because the number of people that are coming locally and driving is up. We see it's still, 22% from the come from the airport, 4% from Miami. So it's still, the airport's still pretty steady. And then you see that most people are driving or taking a taxi. That again, that's the people that actually stop to be served. So that's Cheryl will tell you, that was the toughest part. And then market behavior. So we thought this was very interesting. This was for an average family size of 4 people traveling in their party, or 3.7. But lodging, how much they spend on food and beverage, and then other, it's probably because they don't really keep track. And so we're not really sure about that, but I do think the lodging, the food and beverage is probably a little bit on the low side. But just then. And then that's us. Love us, like us, be our friend. Follow us on social.
If I might.
Go ahead.
Ellen, clearly you guys are on the rise. I'd like to know from the hoteliers here, if you know what you get from cruises. We don't have anyone here on 17th Street. Obviously, we don't have, whatever they're called now, Hilton Marina or whatever it's called. So, but those that are surrounding, are you getting business from this pre and post?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, well, okay.
How much, guys?
Well, we've got contracts with Disney.
Okay, got it.
They didn't come in as strong as we thought they would, but that's okay. But we still get, you can always tell when Disney's in port because you look in the hotel and you're in an elevator, everybody's wearing ears or whatnot, So, but yeah, we definitely know, and big suitcases, you can just tell. So we're definitely getting business pre and post.
Yeah, even though we're about a half an hour from the cruise port, a little less, we get a lot of business, so much so that it's worth it for my small business to advertise every single year since day one in the Everglades Port Guide.
And I also suspect a lot of the limited service hotels in the Dania Beach area, at the US 1 area that we don't really have representation on, has a significant impact on that. So,
Well, you can see the growth.
yeah, in the hotel
area.
area. Yeah, absolutely.
They're every corner.
Yeah. Oh,
Springing up.
okay. Well, great. Any other questions?
I think one of the things, Ellen, at least my experience of being on cruises, which I used to do a lot, is it's very multi-generational. So when you're looking at the numbers up there, and I think that's something that somehow we can market to in this destination, because even when they get off the cruises, we've got something for every age group.
That's fair.
And it's, usually what I see on the cruise ships are families, now I'm on the higher end.
It's shorter.
Yes, so it's, I think that's something that I'm not sure what we do with that, but I think that it's important information for us to have.
Well, you'll see that Disney spent a lot of marketing dollars in our destination. They sponsored ice at the Panther Arena and a lot of things there. And then also, if you go down 595 in US Land, you'll see billboards, which I see an increasing amount of dollars being spent by Disney here. I did notice celebrities started putting signs up on 595. So they're getting that whole
So,
drive market.
yeah, they're looking to market to the people down here.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, take their
Right.
business, bring it into.
All right, great. Thank you so much. Now we will hear from our airport. Thank you, Mark.
That logo. Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Guess we should have named this the Tale of Two Cities.
Yeah.
For those of you that know me, know that I'm a fairly straight shooter. I don't come here with rose colored glasses on. I felt like it is somewhat fearless and pragmatic. And so it's interesting when we have our monthly coalition calls on tourism and whatnot to hear the different perspectives, what's coming from the hoteliers, what's coming from the restaurateurs, what's coming from the CBP and across the board, and then what's coming from the airport, Port Everglades. So I was just asked to give a quick update on what we're seeing. Start off by saying I wish I could back my car up as good as the ship's back up into the port. Take a video of that and bring that the next time. But I don't think it a misunderstanding or mistake if I ask you to remember two words that we're all living right now, at least in my business anyway, which is the buzzwords of macroeconomic uncertainty. And just playing out in a huge sort of way in some of our facilities. So I'll run through some of these and then I'll touch upon stuff. Sure. And then hopefully have time for a couple of questions here. So the high level view, just wanted to point out a couple of trends that we're seeing in the business here. If you go back pre-pandemic and take a look at the right-hand side of the screen, you can see, JetBlue was our number one carrier, Spirit was number two, Southwest was number three, very robust between the three of them. We were talking 60% market share between the three airlines. Historically speaking, if you take the top six airlines, you're going to hit 9% above of the market share for our marketplace. Fast forward to 2024, coming out of the pandemic, a lot of jockeying going on, and 2024, even with Spirit going through bankruptcy issues, still came out with a 31% market share. JetBlue, smaller, trying to find themselves again. There may be some JetBlue lovers in the room, and remember that they always scored very, very high in the rankings. But they've had a number of years now, non-profitability. They have their program that they refer to as JetForward to try to find profitability and get back to the airline that everybody fell in love with. That has meant that they've shrunk some of their route structure and changed a little bit of the way that they're doing business. And all of them, I think, trying to reinvent themselves. There's a heavy focus, folks, in the premium category. It doesn't matter whether you're an ultra low cost carrier or you're a five-star carrier. There is an attention on the premium passenger. If you remember, just before Spirit went into bankruptcy, they were the king of unbundled fares. You could buy anything. When that wasn't working, they decided to go to bundle fares, put in first class seats. Many of them are putting in first class seats now because the legacy carriers have found a way to compete with the ultra low cost carriers. So the ultra low cost have to reinvent themselves and are offering more premium products now. Why? People are buying it. They're buying to be upfront in that regard. Big number there that shrinks. You'll see Southwest Airlines, from 19.7% down to 11.3%. Currently in the first quarter, running about 9.5%. That was the Southwest move of their international operation from Fort Lauderdale to Orlando. They relocated all of their international operations out there. They have a much more robust domestic structure flying through Orlando, and they use that domestic structure to feed into the international marketplace. That hurt us significantly. I've had a number of conversations with the very top senior leadership at Southwest, and while they know that I'm very unhappy because of the investments that we made at our airport facility to serve that international market, I'm not about burning bridges. And this scenario, this environment can change rapidly. And I want to keep the door open and hopefully then come back to us. If you take a look on the right-hand side, you'll see Delta, United, American. Some of their percentage market shares are shifting upwards a little bit. They're running pretty steady. If you shrink the pie, Delta, American, United don't have to change very much and their market share is going to go up because the market share is being lost on the low-cost carrier side of the house. So just quick what things to look at on that side. What I want you to pay attention to here is just a comparison between where we are now versus last year. So in March of 2025, and in the color behind it, 2024, That's the comparison. So as you go across 294 daily departures this March versus 308 in 2024 in March. So you get the comparison that follows all the way through. So not too bad in the overall daily departures. And frankly, we're doing a little bit better on the domestic side now. Some of you mentioned that already. We're seeing domestic kick in. International is where we really are taking a little bit of a punch in the gut. Some of that's Southwest. Some of that was JetBlue and Spirit going through a lot of South American, Latin American cutbacks along those ways. Good news is they're actually starting to put some of those back into the rotation now. So we're hopeful that we'll see those numbers start to come back up. Passenger trends. This is where the rose-colored glasses come off. Just want to be able to point out as we go through our fiscal year, October 1 through September 30th, we take a look at a fiscal year over fiscal year. From the right-hand side to the left-hand side, you can see the trend that there's fewer passengers that are actually coming through the facility. And again, that is largely indicative of everything that the ultra low cost carriers are going through in terms of trying to reinvent themselves going forward. We measure things on two bases on our fiscal year. Obviously, Stacy mentioned it. We too are taking a very fiscal conservative approach at the direction of the county administrator and the board, and trying to reduce our budgets to make sure that we're in line. Contractual services are rising all the time. So we're tightening the belt across the board. And with fewer passengers, our costs are not as easily covered along those ways. The uncertainty, I wanted to read something to you just quickly when I said that folks are trying to guess where this is going. Virtually every airline out there has retracted their outlooks, their forward-looking guidance in their quarterly earnings statements. This is from United just a few weeks ago. The company's outlook is dependent on the macro environment, which the company believes is impossible to predict this year with any degree of confidence. Accordingly, two guidance benchmarks are provided below. We undertake no obligation to update this guidance as circumstances evolve. And the first one is, if things are stable, then they expect to be with their initial guidance. If we hit a recessionary environment scenario, you're going to look at serious reductions across the board. I've mentioned it. We take a look probably 4 to 6 weeks ago. Goldman Sachs had us at about an 85% chance of going to a recessionary period. I think that was revised about 2 weeks ago down to about 35%. But it could easily go back up again. And this uncertainty in the marketplace, fuel prices, discretionary spend are all having its toll on the air traffic that's coming through our facility and frankly, some other facilities around the country as well. There's been a lot of attention since we went to war with Canada, apparently, what's happening to our Canadian traffic. So 5 Canadian airlines. In the bigger scheme of things, on the international side, Canadian traffic makes up about 22% of our international passenger traffic, a significant amount. In the overall scheme of all of our passengers, Canadian traffic makes up a little less than 5% of our traffic. But you can see, again, looking from a March of 2024 to March of 2025, what happens to some of the numbers and declines. We actually did better overall in March of 2025 than we did in 2024. But April, we didn't do as well. And you can see those numbers starting to decline. There's lots of different things that can work into that. I don't get my head all wrapped around, a couple percentage points here or there in the bigger scheme of things. But when you see a trend like this, it's something that we're paying attention to really, really close. So we forecasted in our FY25 budget, which we're in right now, that ends September 30th, that we would have a total of 17.59 million enplanements, essentially double that. So if you call that 18 million enplanements, it would be 36 million passengers for the year. We're really at about 35.7 on our projection going forward. We're not going to hit that just because of some of the retraction that we're seeing in the marketplace. We're probably going to come in a little bit better than 16.5 million passengers. And then on those same numbers Kevin's talking about, if you think about what's our FY26 look like, which will be in October of this year into calendar year 2026, we're probably looking at that somewhere between 5 and 7%. Again, further reduction, unless we see some really significant changes in the wind, no pun intended, that in terms of where the airlines are flying and how they're reacting to the marketplace. So that was the not so great, the things that are that keep us up at night, but again, being very pragmatic. That said, I'm somewhat of an eternal optimist as well. And also, I think I've seen enough of these swings in my time in this business for over 40 years now, that we have to keep our eye on the long ball. So there's a lot of development and expected master planning activities that are going to be taking place here at the airport, because we're looking at the other side of this turbulence once we get to the other side. T5 is under construction. If you ride by on the east side of the airport, you'll see a lot of earth clearing. We're doing a lot of the heavy, deep earth utilities, whether they be water, electric, working very closely with FP&L. FAA has lines in there, but that facility is going to be a 5-gate domestic facility. You'll actually be able to get to it directly from Perimeter Road or through the terminal facility. That's going to give us what we refer to as swing capacity. We're going to need that swing capacity when we go into the fuller, larger scale program to actually expand the concourses. We have to take some gates out of service, and these gates are going to become incredibly, incredibly important to us. We're about 90% or so working towards our 100% in the next month or two on the design, and then the final GMP will be priced. One of the things that you'll see in these slides here, folks, I'm not sure if how bad you're seeing it in your business. I know you're seeing it, just how bad is impacts from escalation and inflation in the marketplace here. We are seeing on the construction side of the house anywhere from 30% to 100% escalation on prices. Things that, cost you $400 million 3-4 years ago are now $800 million. The funding availabilities don't grow exponentially with the cost of the projects. Our airlines, the way our current arrangement works for their airlines is that they ultimately back our projects. They back our debt. We don't back our debt through the county, backed by the revenues that we generate here at the airport as a self-standing entity going forward. So if you have airlines that are struggling and you're asking them to support billions and billions of dollars of more debt, it makes for a very interesting conversation if they get to vote on those projects, which they do. I'm pleased to report that our conversations with them have been going very, very well. So the next round of development that we want to be able to release is probably going to be in the $4 billion range to continue moving forward. They'll end up backing about 70% of that just by debt service on the airport. That does not fall in the general obligation side of the house, along with other funding that we bring in. A post-security terminal connector project is also underway. That's the connect. For those of you who flew out, you can travel behind security between terminals 3 and 4. We're going to be doing the same thing between T1 and T2 and T2 and T3. So you'll have full circuity all the way around. You can come in at T1, go to a restaurant in T2, and catch your flight out in T3 without having to go back through security again. That one, we received a $50 million grant under the build funding. We're also using about 77 million of other build funding to complete that project that is underway. And that should be complete in 2027, which is really going to enhance the experience, but also give us the ability to move airlines around and where they park their airplanes to a much greater degree than we can today. The Intermodal Center. That is going to be a massive facility that is built off the end of the airport in what we affectionately refer to as the donut, the roundabout roadway that you come in as you enter into the airport roadway structure. That's actually land that's owned by FDOT. So we've been coordinating with them to long-term lease that facility. We've completed what's referred to as the program definition document that basically spells out all the baseline requirements that we want in that facility. The NEPA process, a federal requirement. We completed that in December of last year. Check that box with the finding of no significant impact. Looking to put that under construction within the next year to year and a half. They'll probably see us coming out, the airport coming out with solicitation documents later this year. Again, largely dependent upon what's the current economic environment and where we are with escalation and inflation, and making sure that we have a full plan of finance that can cover the project. And then bringing it on here, the automated people mover system. Some of you heard me say this before. We move people around. I'm sorry, it's almost like Fred Flintstone time. We are moving folks around our facility in shuttle buses, and while they're relatively new shuttle buses, we have 50 of them moving around, which just contribute to our carbon footprint. It's highly inefficient. They're very, very expensive to operate. The other 3 large hub airports in the state of Florida and Miami, Tampa, and Orlando have had automated people mover systems for some of them over 50 years now. Tampa and Orlando put their first people mover systems in 1971. And we're just getting into this ballgame now to actually connect us all the way across our airport infrastructure. That one too, we anticipate both the IMC and the intermodal center, which will, or the APM and the intermodal center, coming into play together with each other in the 2029-2030 timeframe as we move forward. So that's it. Happy to answer any quick questions, Ina, but I think the glass is half full. But where we're at.
Any questions for Mark?
I have a question.
Okay.
Newark issues, are they a possibility here? Or are we in different kind of stage of technology and that it something we're?
So the question from Ron is the Newark issues an issue here? The answer is yes and no. There are multiple issues that are taking place in Newark. One of them is the technology issue. So that facility is actually the traffic in and out of there is handled by my former facility, Philadelphia, with the TradeCons actually loaded in located in Philadelphia. So they've had some technology equipment issues. The air traffic controller shortage has been well known for years and years and years and years. That is a pipeline that can't probably get filled quick enough. Thankfully, we're not experiencing the same level of concerns in Florida with either Miami TradeCon or up in Jacksonville that they've had here. We did have controller shortages in the Jacksonville area over the course of the last several years. They've quieted that down quite a bit. And technology is technology across the board. The other thing that's causing the problem in Newark is construction. They were constructing one of the runways, which has severely limited their operations coming in and out. So they announced yesterday that they're going to curtail the number of operations that can be done safely out of there. That is something that we went through here at FLL over the course of the last 5 years, where we totally reconstructed the North Runway in 100 days. And we were down to a single runway. If something happened on a single runway, we were out of business. Thankfully, magnificent team that I worked with, Salim Salcedo and everybody there. We had contingency plans upon contingency plans, and we made it through that summer relatively unscathed. So thanks, Ron.
Thank you. Jenny? No?
Same question.
Okay.
Yeah, I did have the same question, but I'll ask another one. So I'm curious how you are addressing the homeless population at the airport. It's the first thing people see post security, or when you're leaving, when you come to the airport or when you're coming out off a plane. And it's I think pretty significant. And especially when you fly in late, when you see a lot of people sleeping there, it doesn't seem safe for me when I'm flying by myself and I come in at 11 o'clock at night and I'm not, that's the first thing I see when I'm heading to baggage claim and I'm worried about going to my car. And I'm just curious about, and I know we all deal with it, but from a tourism perspective and just a local perspective in general, like how are you handling?
So the power of delegation is really a wonderful thing. So the individual that's sitting right behind you is Selena Salcedo, our Chief Administrative Officer. And I don't mean to put her on the spot, but I'm going to take 2 seconds to talk about, because she is point for us on this program at the airport on our outreach and how much we actually contribute financially and otherwise to try to address this issue. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I would love that magic wand for the power of delegation. Good morning, everybody. About 2.5 years ago, we were approached by the county's Human Services Department, and this is when it is an amazing, wonderful partnership with them. We have been meeting on a weekly basis with the county's Human Services Department, with BSO, with several partners at the airport to address that. So does anybody how many of you live in Broward County? Have you seen unhoused individuals in your communities? Yes. So, yeah. So it is an intractable issue. It's a challenge that we're not going to be able to solve at the airport. I do share your concerns, and I'm sorry that you've had a negative experience when you came to the airport. We're trying our hardest to work with the subject matter experts to be able to address the challenge. And why is that? I tell the group that we meet on a weekly basis, we're not social workers. We're public administrators, and we're trying to address the challenge with compassion and with being able to at least present an image at the airport that is not unsafe. So, action steps. What have we done? We have been able to fund a program
with the county's Human Services Department. They have a contract with 2 outreach services. Those employees come to the airport 7 days a week. What happens is that the unhoused individuals want to be able to have a place to charge their phone, sometimes get a hot meal. So we're trying to say every single day that the airport is not a shelter. That's the mantra. So when people come into the airport and they see that there's a sentiment that the airport is not doing anything, we have been doing that for 2.5 years. We have some happy endings with folks who have been reunited with their families, who have been homeless for a long time. And I've learned a few things along the way from the subject matter experts, is that when you are homeless and without a domicile for over a year, you're chronically homeless. More than 75% of the individuals that we have found at FLL are chronically homeless. So the outreach services teams that we have funded, and we have federal guidelines that prohibit us from funding something that is not directly related to the airport. So at the onset of being able to make these plans work, we're like, okay, well, the funding has to be exclusively for those airport services. We have 2 nonprofit organizations. We have the Task Force for Ending Homelessness and Care Resource, who come to the airport, as I mentioned, 7 days a week to be able to provide counseling services. There's an issue also with mental health and addiction problems that we said, okay, so we're not social workers, we're public administrators, we're aviation how do we tackle this? At first it was outreach services. Are you able to avail yourselves of housing services? Do you need a bed at a temporary shelter? The Salvation Army provides 10 dedicated beds to the airport on a single day basis, so that we're able to say, okay, if you want a shelter bed, you're able to go there. But at the end of the day, safety is our main concern. We have changed the hours and the times that we try to outreach to these individuals so that they understand that the airport, again, is not a shelter. It is an ongoing challenge that we're trying to address with those outreach services. And the last point that I wanted to make also about Care Resource is that Care Resource is a nonprofit organization that actually addresses the mental health care component. Because unless we address that, it's going to keep happening. They're going to keep coming back to the airport. And one last point that I wanted to make, about 2.5 years ago, maybe 3, we went to a national aviation conference. For the first time ever, there was a panel presentation for airports on how to address homelessness at our facilities. So it is not confined to FLL. It's airports all over the United States of America, because we are 24/7. We're open 365 days a year. And as I said, it's a place where somebody can come, charge your phone, get a hot meal,
Get air conditioned.
or get warmth when it's cold outside. So I share your concerns. I want you to know that we are working with a lot of different organizations that are able to help us, because we're trying to continue to keep a safe environment for both our guests and our employees as well. So it may not look to you as if there's somebody working, but we have 2 teams who are working diligently to be able to address the unhoused individuals who choose to come to the airport.
Thank you. I've got one comment as well. So obviously with the IPW coming in a year, we're very focused on the overall community hospitality, how we present ourselves to guests, to our community. With that, we have our taxi services are what I feel less, they're below the standards that we see at other airports. And the ride share, because the way it's where it's situated, things like that, tends to get to be a little long to do that. in the new plan of the development, are we changing where the ride share is? What's the focus of that?
Yeah, so Tim, thanks. I was in commission the day that I came and we talked about that. So we're working together with our consumer protection division. We don't get to say what tax has to be in the first, right? Not right. You know, but the issue was heard, and I think there's going to be some additional meetings going forward as we get ready for feedback, as we get ready for IPW, those types of things. We made a major change in the operation, two major changes, if you will. If you roll back the hands of time, when TNCs first arrived in Broward County, there wasn't a requirement for them to be in one location. They were parking all over the place. A lot of them took over Snyder Park. We got complaints from the city, we got complaints from everybody where the drivers were littering, urinating all over the place. We worked with the TNCs to create what many other airports have as a geo-fenced area, essentially a lot that they have to park in. So at the very, very west end of the airport is the space that we had available, holds about 350 TNCs, and it's full all the time. On any given day, I have 11,286 parking spaces, public parking spaces at the airport. There are multiple days of the week when we actually do more than 286,000 pickups on TNC. It is outstripping parking in a big, big sort of way. And all that traffic is on the roadway. That lot is 2.8 miles from where they stand from the time that they get there and go down Perimeter Road to enter into the airport. We're looking for a place that's closer to that sooner, but there really isn't anything when you travel the route to be able to get there. And they have to be located in lot in order for them to pick up the ride. The long term, our taxi cab lot right now is off just north of, or I should say east of US 1 on 10th Street. In that area right there, we built that several years ago. There's a piece of land that we actually own that we're looking at that used to be a palm tree farm, a Shaw property. Unfortunately, it has a number of issues with it. It would probably take me somewhere between $8 and $10 million just to demuck it, and another $5 to $7 million to construct the lot. It's big money, but it is baked into how we're going to be able to try to deal with TNCs because we don't think that they're going to go anywhere. I think the challenge for us working with all of you in the community is how do we prepare ourselves better to handle what we want to be on display next year with IPW, with FIFA and whatnot going forward. Not the reason that we should do it alone.
No,
but it is something that we want to be very cognizant of going forward. So, and then just for Melissa, great comments the other day at the Alliance Roundup on there because the homeless issue was discussed, and I think we can learn a few things from Boston and our colleagues that we'll try to debate back into how we conduct business here and Ron too. So, yes, I am.
Couple of things. First of all, Mark, I flew out of the airport for the first time
Ever?
a week ago. And since I broke my knee back and like that.
Just fine.
I was really impressed. I was in the American Terminal. I was really impressed by the way it's been redone. Okay, it was beautiful. So I just want to acknowledge you for that. I know you're dealing with a lot of challenges, but this was the first time that I saw the completed, whatever you call that thing, right? So that I want to say. Secondly, just for this group, so with IPW, and we're going to talk about it much more thoroughly later, but there's a small group of us, Broward Workshop related and others that are working specifically with the taxi cab companies. We've already talked to the county commission and there's progress being made, slower than I would like, but there is progress being made. They know about the issues that we're dealing with. The commission itself seems to be committed to making changes so there's a good experience with the taxis, okay? And so I did want this group to know. We'll report more on it when we know more, okay? But this will be coming in front of the county commission sometime in the next couple of months for sure. Okay, so we are working on that issue. It's a critical issue for us. I just spoke to Mark about it. They're a part of it as well. And because we are dealing with taxis and we know what they're like. Okay, we want it to be a first-class experience, raising the whole experience of this destination. Okay, so just as an inform to you all, spending a lot of time on this right now. Okay, and also getting the ride shares closer to, so you don't have to necessarily rely, but I actually got in my first taxi when I got off the plane and it wasn't great, but it wasn't as bad as I thought. So,
Thank you, Steps.
And just for put a number in your head. So right now, the split between the TNCs, Uber, Lyft, InDrive, there's a few others up there. versus taxi cab. It's about an 85 to 15% split, 15% on the taxi cabs.
Yeah.
But it's still 1,000 to 1,500 taxi cabs that come out of the airport on a daily basis over a 24-hour period. So just so you know what the shift is.
I would suspect that when someone hits their ride share and it says 25 minutes and they walk out, they say, I'll just grab a cab. You know, that's typically what I've done and what I've seen. So
I'm not sure that that's actually what's happening.
Really?
Tim, you know, again, I think that the notion that folks have, one of the problems that we had were folks that were ordering TNCs from the airplane.
Yeah.
And well, the area that we hadn't going in, I actually went out there one day and I watched an Uber driver sit on our curb for 35 minutes without the person coming out until later. So we have to start to enforce that because the curb space is limited. So we said, okay, well, should we restrict, much like we restrict where drivers can actually sit and wait for a ride? Should we restrict where you can actually order should be in the baggage claim when you're waiting for your bag? Well, your bag may come up in 5 minutes and may come up in 25 minutes. You don't know what it's going to be. But the limited space that we have available to be able to handle these operations is what we're trying to deal with to make sure that we have flow. Terminal 3 and 4, we do 400 TNC projects in an hour. That's 10 to 12 Ubers that are funneling through a chute every minute in that hour time frame. That's the rate of turnover that we're looking at right now, which speaks to how folks are really coming back and forth to the airport right now.
anything else, Ward? Well, again, thank you for your time and presentation.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so we're gonna jump into the Spark update. Miss Cameron Blank, how are you?
Chanel, why don't you just start with the videos so we don't have to go in and out, and I'll pick up from there. Slightly revised agenda from us today, just a few short slides. I think we want to start with a little bit of a celebration. Obviously there was a lot to do at the marketing luncheon about our big bold winter campaign. And so we have some performance metrics that we want to share with you related to that campaign. And then just going to give you a high level overview of what activity we're going to have in market for this summer. So just a couple of things from me, but this is a recap of our Chicago activation. So I was present in market at that event, and we had what I'm told from Chicagoans, the weather was like 70 degrees one day and then snowing the next. And so we sort of had to pivot our story. We literally brought the sunshine one day, but then also we offered the warmth of Greater Fort Lauderdale the other. But I think that actually really helped us from a traffic perspective. We were already intentionally there during the St. Patrick's Day weekend when they dye the river green. So we saw, I think our location typically sees about 30,000 people in a day, 70,000 in a weekend. And we saw over almost 160,000 people cross through the activation space over those 3 days. So the warm weather got people out and about in there. And then we also had the snow and the juxtaposition of our warmth with the sort of yucky weather. So it's kind of the best of both worlds, which was a happy accident, if you will. But that wasn't the only part of the campaign. Let me share a couple of slides. The campaign. All right, so to fix it. The campaign was fully integrated. So we had video, we had digital, we had out of home, we had social media from January through March. So it really was a very integrated campaign, complementing sort of those bold awareness driving with our 3D billboard and Times Square, the activation in Chicago with really hardworking, very efficient, high reach digital tactics. We're happy to report that the campaign was hugely successful. So we saw across all of our tactics that we outperformed benchmarks. We didn't necessarily have Visit Lauderdale benchmarks to measure against. So we leaned on our media partners to help us understand how our creative and our media performed versus what they typically see. You can see all of the green here. So not only in click-through rates, but engagement rates, traffic, earned media value. We were really happy to see that the campaign outperformed expectations. Just some highlights for that. Of course, we want to show delivery. We had 165 total impressions across all of our tactics. This was a 34% over delivery. So our media team isn't here today, but kudos to them for really working our partners for some added value. And then we like to give priority to partners who can help with metrics that aren't just sort of those performance-driven one. And so Viant was one of our media partners. They had our programmatic digital, they had a rich media unit, and they had some video, again, from January through March. And they were able to do what's called a footfall study, where they essentially have a control group who is not exposed to our audience, and they look at performance of the control group versus those who were exposed to our audience, and they're able to track who was exposed to our campaign and then potentially passed through Lauderdale. And so we saw those that were exposed to advertising were 2.5 times more likely to visit Fort Lauderdale, Greater Fort Lauderdale during that period. So we're going to continue to seek out partners who can add that level of performance to the mix. But overall, did want to just take a moment to celebrate winter. I know it's well in the rearview mirror, but we're excited by how it performed, and we sought out what we did what we sought out to do. Any questions on winter? Okay. So in terms of what we're actively working on now and what's going to be happening through the summer, we've got sort of 2 key activities in market for our what we're calling summer / always on. This is, we talked, I think you heard us say previously that in past years, a lot of money was in the upper funnel awareness bucket. And we were sort of ignoring that middle and lower funnel. And so a lot of the activity, we know that we're entering slow season, is really about reaching those people who are showing intent to travel and getting them further into the funnel and making sure that they choose Greater Fort Lauderdale when they're actively seeking travel inspiration. So we've got approximately 27 million impressions that will be geared in that mid and lower. So we want to inspire travelers that are actively looking and get them to come to Greater Fort Lauderdale. This will be present across a couple of different tactics. Endemic media, this is really your OTAs and travel related. So showing travel content and travel sites. These people are highly relevant, highly likely to travel. So we'll be present on TripAdvisor and Expedia. From a programmatic perspective, this again is high reach, high efficiency. So we're following those same travelers on their journey throughout the web. We have a couple of partners in this with Sojourn, Viant, and Adara. Of course, we'll leverage social media, a huge part of the inspiration portion of the funnel. From a creative perspective, as you know, we're actively working on sort of the brand refresh in the background. So we do have sort of an evolution of our Everyone Under the Sun campaign. We're also testing some creative messaging. We've got a water culture version. We've got a family beaches version. Of course, we're keeping with our inclusivity and welcoming, as well as playing up culinary. And so the combination of sort of creative testing with these lower funnel media tactics is really going to give us some learnings about what messages are resonating with audiences, which we're excited about. Of course, we'll have some print placements as well. Again, you saw sort of the performance of winter, everything that we do, we want to make sure that we're measuring it. So where we can have those football studies with partners, we're looking to do those. Some of them offer brand lift studies. And then of course, we want to track the ROI of the investment. So we're really excited about the learnings that we're going to get through this campaign and how that might inform future efforts. Questions there? Okay. The Always On is also being complemented by a culinary custom content. So also had the great privilege of attending the Michelin event. It was exciting to see our destination present and for us to win. And we want to sort of ride on those coattails a little bit, but we want to tell our undertold culinary story. And so this effort is really about raising awareness for that culinary message, ultimately trying to drive, increased bookings at restaurants in the area. Hopefully you saw our partner survey, maybe, or if you have restaurants in your area, make sure they check it out to see if they can participate. But I think a big part of this effort is that, it's one thing for a brand to say we have a great culinary offering, but we want to use actually trusted voices in this space to help us tell that story. And so we've assessed a number of partners based on their credibility within culinary, also sort of balancing that super niche foodie travelers with just the inherent linkage between travel and food. And so we will also have about 32 million impressions across these partners. So if you're not familiar with Dotdash Meredith, that's food and wine and travel and leisure. Matador, New York Times, Condé Nast, Vox is Eater. We have any foodies in the room. But we're excited about this effort. It's going to allow us to tell a variety of culinary related stories, whether that's the sort of international flavor with our, sort of local welcoming vibe. Obviously, water culture and the dock and dine is a huge differentiator for our area. And then Michelin, there is something to be said about Michelin and sharing that story with the world as well. This is just a sampling, but some of these partners will be in our market filming at our restaurants across the destination. And then the assets that they are shooting for us will go into custom placements within their websites, apps, etc. But we will also get the content that we can repurpose and use for ourselves. So we're excited about all of that. Thanks. That's it for me. Thanks, Grant. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks to Ellen for coming and sharing such insightful information. We really appreciate it. I understand we have a newlywed in the house. And want to say congratulations on your recent nuptials. Didn't want to go without acknowledging that. But okay, get to my presentation. So, in the words of Janet Jackson, I'm here to answer the big question. What have you done for me lately? Well, here's a glimpse. Results that matter, headlines that travel, and impressions that stick. Let me break it down for you. This spring, we made culinary history. Greater Fort Lauderdale, as you've heard, is officially on the map for the first ever Michelin rated restaurants. This achievement isn't just about stars. It's about spotlighting the vibrant, globally inspired flavors of our destination. And the buzz is real. In the last quarter alone, our PR efforts generated 47 placements, 1.46 billion impressions, and over 13.5 million in ad value. That's not just coverage, that's currency. Our story isn't staying still. We've hosted fans from high-value international markets, from Toronto, Spain, France, Mexico, Germany, and Brazil.
bringing influential voices here to experience and share our story firsthand. Even today, we've partnered with Visit Florida on a satellite media tour, airing As We Meet in nearly 20 domestic markets. Our website is performing well too. Top performing markets like New York, Massachusetts, and Ohio are driving significant traffic, and visitors are exploring the right pages. They're going to things to do, restaurants, and places to stay. These behaviors signal strong intent and interest, proof that our content strategy is also working. Our social channels are not just growing, they're performing. This past quarter, we saw nearly 200,000 video views and a reach of over 149,000. These are not passive impressions. This is targeted engagement with curated content that attracts visitors and is inspiring action. Now let's take a look ahead. We're entering one of the most exciting activations of the year, Dine Out Lauderdale, which will be running from August 1st through September 30th. This is our opportunity to spotlight Greater Fort Lauderdale's culinary scene during off-peak season. And we're building the program to have both impact and inclusivity. Participating restaurants will benefit from high visibility across multiple touch points, from digital exposure on our website and in newsletters to physical assets like table tents and window clings that convert foot traffic into reservations. The campaign provides measurable value, both online and on the ground. This year, the campaign design has been refreshed to reflect a more modern, elevated brand experience. The new visuals create a strong connection to the high-quality, diverse dining options that define Greater Fort Lauderdale's culinary community. We're offering 4 price points to increase flexibility and encourage creativity. We have the $35 for lunch, $45 and $60 for dinner, and the new Luxe value at $75. This structure provides access and excitement for locals and visitors alike, while allowing restaurants to showcase their best offerings. So what's behind the campaign? A targeted $1 million paid media spend with placements across digital, social, and influencer channels. This isn't just marketing. It's a revenue-driving program designed to support our restaurant partners and boost tourism-related spending. So we have a few key dates. Registration opened on May 5th. It runs through June the 30th. So if you have a restaurant at your hotel or in your community, I encourage you to get them to sign up soon. We'll be hosting a kickoff event on July 15th at Mastro's. And during that same week, we're kicking off a new program where we're hosting social media influencers to come to what we're calling Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. These moments are designed to build excitement and maximize exposure right before the campaign begins. And then next month, as you've heard about as well, we take the spotlight to IPW 2025, the travel industry's biggest stage and brightest lights. As the official future host destination, we're heading to Chicago with one mission: to captivate, connect, and invite the world to experience Greater Fort Lauderdale firsthand in 2026. This isn't just another trade show. It's our global debut. In addition to hundreds of scheduled business appointments, we're going big. A press conference for over 600 top-tier domestic and international journalists, a major stage presentation to all 6,000 global attendees. And for the first time ever, one of the largest activation areas ever granted to a future host destination. This is more than visibility. It's a strategic power play to elevate our brand, build anticipation, and secure future business. We're not waiting for guests to discover us. We're taking Greater Fort Lauderdale directly to them. We're also moving ahead with 2 major milestones: our Partner Engagement Summit, our Partner Summit on August the 13th, which is an opportunity for us to connect and collaborate and align our efforts with the community, so mark your calendars. And then the next MAC meeting, which will be held on August the 6th. Your attendance is necessary. It is essential that we approve the FY26 marketing plan in that meeting, so a quorum is required. So I encourage you to get that on your calendar. So as we close, let's return to the question that inspired today's theme. what have we done for you lately? That's not a challenge, it's an affirmation. Over the past few months, we've delivered meaningful wins, strategic website performance, social media growth, culinary recognition with Michelin, national and international PR coverage, and now a robust summer activation strategy. We're not following trends, we're leading them. We're not waiting to be discovered. We're putting Greater Fort Lauderdale on the map. We've taken control of our narrative and backed it up with results. So let's continue to move forward with purpose, not to meet expectations, but to exceed them. Thank you. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Okay, folks, questions, comments for Kamala or anything you've heard so far, folks?
I think we have one in the back there.
Callan, a quick question. What are we doing to reach out to like the Museum of Art, Fort Lauderdale, things of that nature?
We partner with all of those. We have a partner engagement specialist who is here, Brittany, who reaches out to all of our community partners to ensure that they are aligning with the programs that we have in place.
I can actually speak to that.
Yes.
Because Brittany's been amazing. We've been working with her with my attraction as well. And we had a fantastic meeting with Greater Fort Lauderdale. We're launching our adventure pass for the summer, which is Butterfly World, Museum of Discovery and Science, Flamingo Gardens, and the airboat rides at my park. It's an unlimited pass for the whole summer. It's locals, but we target it heavily to travelers as well for an affordable week of vacation. And the team organized a fantastic meeting with us to help elevate our marketing efforts. But we're very excited about bringing Brittany on board. I've had, I think, 3 or 4 meetings with her already in the last few months. And her direct outreach on how to work more closely with the attractions and the CVB partners has been really exciting. So from an attraction standpoint, it's probably the most conversation we've had in years about how to be involved and how to tie in with everything that they're working on. So we're excited.
Thank you, Brittany.
Yeah, no problem. You guys are doing great.
She didn't mention it, folks, yet, but it's critically important. Our next MAC meeting is August 6th, right? It's not, you don't have it on your calendars yet. It will be sent out to you. But it is the one meeting that everyone is required to be at because we've got to have a quorum to approve the marketing plan to recommend to the Tourist Development Council a few days later to move forward with. If you remember a few years ago, we didn't have a quorum. We had to actually pull in a second meeting after the TDC. We don't want to do that. So if everyone just please take out your calendar kind of stuff, put it on your calendar now, August 6th, 10 o'clock, right here. You'll be getting a notice, but I want to make sure everyone's got it on their calendar right now and how critically important this meeting is, folks. By government, whatever it is, this is the one thing we're required to do as a marketing advisory committee is actually recommend for passing the marketing plan. Okay, so please everyone be here, etc. Okay. All right, other questions, comments, we're going to go in anything for Kamala, but we're also going to go also into, by the way, just as an FYI, Marie McKenzie, who is representing the cruise lines as resigned from the MAC. We're having someone replace her, but just so you know, because she's part of our committee, or she was anyway. And so questions, comments, folks, this is a critically important meeting. We're not meeting again until August. So questions, comments, etc. I think we did a good meeting then. Okay, Joelle,
I'm sorry. I was just wondering if we've looked, if we're staying the course in our marketing plan through the rest of the year.
a little bit, August.
Yeah. My question is, are we staying the course in our marketing plan through the rest of the year, or based on some of the macro environment, et cetera? Have we looked at changes, anything we need to do to, take us through June through, till we start off again, because we don't start again until our next plan, which we'll review in August, right? So kind of, has there been any kind of look at adjustments?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I got it. Absolutely. And thanks for the question, because I actually should have said that when I spoke earlier during the meeting. It's clear that international is going to be very problematic for at least the rest of this calendar year and probably into the next, unless things drastically change and there is certainty in the market. And when I talk about market, I'm not talking about our market. I'm talking about the global economy and messaging that's quite frankly coming out of leadership. Tariffs on, tariffs off, tariffs lower, tariffs higher has become so chaotic that it is impossible, as you heard from Ted, for us to really forecast what we're doing. And forecasts are changing as often as the headlines do. So as a result of that, it's become clear that a couple of things. All surveys suggest that people want to stay closer to home because of the uncertainty. There's a lot of fear out there. They don't want to be far away from home. That gives us an opportunity in a domestic within the confines of the continental United States to find markets where they're not even necessarily 1.5 to 2 tier markets. They're below that. So we've decided we're going to pull back some of our international spending. We're not going to stop it because there are still always opportunities. There are people who are going to travel no matter what, but it's clear from, if you just take a look at Canada, that's an issue. And while Ted will tell us, and I've learned him, and I've heard him say this many, many times, and it is now, etched on my brain, in the winter time, that probably won't be as difficult because we can backfill with domestic demand. In the summer, it's going to be really hard, and we're going to see a really painful summer. Everybody needs to know right up front, it's going to be a painful summer because the demand is so much less in the summertime. You can't backfill it with domestic. Having said that, we think it's a golden opportunity to shift to a more domestically heavy marketing plan and ease up a little on the international. Now, I say this at a time, by the way, where IPW is coming in a year where we're supposed to go out to the world and say, hey, come. And so I've pulled back some of the global trade travel. We're going to spend more time in Chicago next month at IPW talking to people who are already on the trade show floor because the world will be there, as opposed to going to these places like Japan and South Korea, which is extraordinarily expensive, getting more expensive as the dollar weakens. So that's what we're planning to do. We're planning to find some markets that are not even second tier, but are a little bit more obscure, where we can spend some money where in the past we were not able to do so, and see if we can pump up our domestic markets through at least the rest of the calendar year and probably into the next fiscal for us.
I kind of a tag on to that. Are we considering more focus on a luxury market?
Yes.
Now,
yes, because again, Ted's brilliant. And I don't give compliments often, so you should actually take his praise for the next fiscal year. He has told us that the luxury market is holding steady and actually receiving a larger market share, but it's the sort of mid-level econo market that is taking a big hit. Now, we are overly heavy in mid-level economy logics, which makes it harder for us to capture that luxury when only 10 of our hotels in Broward are actually labeled as luxury hotels. That's not to say that we can't do some creative marketing and make the ones that are sort of on the border more luxury, but beef up our luxury inventory without actually saying they're luxury as defined by, Star, for example. But we are absolutely doing that because people with money still have money. It'll probably have more, and people with less are going to have less. So, but it is harder for us because we don't have 40, 50 luxury hotels. Thank you. So, yeah. Thank you for that question, actually.
Other questions? Okay, we're going to go around the room really quickly to get an update on what's specifically going on with your properties, your businesses, so that we can kind of fold that into everything we're talking about right now, folks. And then your input is really important right now, okay? Because obviously we're going through a lot of flux, a lot of uncertainty, but what you're finding right now is important. So I'll start with you, Chris.
Okay, from the hotel standpoint, we're finishing up our facade renovation. So if you went to the ocean side and looked at our hotel, it looks like we just got shot with a bunch of missiles. But they're cleaning it up and it'll be done within the next 90 days, which is 90 days longer than we thought they'd be there. That's typical. We have downgraded our forecast for the rest of this year. Just based on what we're seeing, and our ownership has asked us to go in and remove all risk from our forecast so that we can react to it. So we just finished that, but it's not rosy. And there's a lot of uncertainty. Our group funnel is really full. It's in a really good shape, but we can't get people to close and sign contracts. And so that's where we stand from a group standpoint. So that's a little scary because at any point they can say, you know, we're not coming. So, but that's what we're looking at right now. Leisure is so far good. Our average rate, we're holding our average rate. It's stupid to trade down at this point. So because we tried that and it didn't work. So. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have said that.
We're all-
People.
We're all gonna have to watch that. Point to each other in a month from now.
Yeah.
So focus obviously summer, right? I mean, as we all mentioned, that's the risk in transient right now. We're seeing the leads less than 30, the reservations are less than 30 days. I think we're probably all seeing that, even up to 7 days. Where people are booking a 4-day vacation, if not longer, within 7 days. Group for 2025 is going to be hit or miss for all of us. I think we're all just seeing that. 2026 and 27, the lead volume is very strong. The funnels are very strong, but again, it's all about who wants to make the decision and sign the contract at the moment. So that's good. Our funnels are all big, but we're all probably sharing some of the same funnels in a sense.
Could be. Yeah.
You know what I mean? As they're just waiting to see what they're going to do. So we're probably sharing some of that together. You know, we're just going to have fun. We got to stay the course, that the interference, you know, run its thing, stay true to our customer, stay true to our loyal customer that comes and repeats with us constantly. And then how do we find that new customer for this market to come to Margaritaville, to get them from another destination? How do we pull them from another destination and bring them to? So,
Andrew, with the Alliance, we're seeing the same thing that Mark talked about on the macro scale. But the good news is we just had $100 million capital investment announced in Weston, which is a big inhalation company. They make asthma products and things like that. So companies are still deciding, but they're taking a little longer to do that. We're also excited. We've been working with the Panthers, or they've been working with us for the last 10 years on encouraging companies to move here. So on the first day of playoffs, we launched a new campaign featuring Matthew Tkachuk, who's one of the Panthers players, talking about why he loves living in Greater Fort Lauderdale. And one of the things he says in there, whether you come to visit or live or work, it's the most beautiful place in the world to be. So it's a really good testament that we're using from him. We had 500,000 views of his video in the first 3 weeks, and it's going to run. We're keeping it running now through the playoffs, hopefully all the way to the end. We'll see where that goes, but that's what's going on with us right now. When they get the cup. When they get the cup.
Joellen from Sawgrass Mills. So business has been solid. Quite honestly, we have a lot of new tenants coming, a lot of moving around, et cetera. So the retail landscape is very good. We have a strong mix of both locals, meaning all of South Florida, as well as tourists. Our international tourists, we're not reliant on Canada by any means, so we haven't felt that impact for us. Our international tourists are traditionally mostly Latin America with Europe, et cetera. So that is still looking good for us. From a marketing perspective, we've been marketing during F1. We'll hit, Art Basel on any time that the tourists are in market. So we're working on all of that. Plus, then we will be at IPW this year. We've done some external, also out of country marketing too. So we've really kind of looked at that, but we're watching all of our numbers and our kind of trends. April, with the move of Easter, it affected us for certain in our traffic. So, that brought in more traffic in April compared to last year, just because of the switch of Easter. We are seeing good spend factors. So shoppers are doing okay.
Hi, Elaine Fitzgerald, Beach Vacation Rentals and Cottages by the Ocean. And I was just at Sawgrass Mills. We had a very hard time parking. Good for you. Sorry about that. Yeah, we're bracing for a difficult summer, but at the same time, we're surrounded by cranes building high-end condo hotels and designer condo hotels, and they're all advertising Pompano Beach big time. So we are seeing a lot of guests who had never been to Pompano Beach, heard great things about it. And I try to greet as many of my guests in person as possible and give them a whole rundown, and they're so happy and can't wait and they love it. So it's a mixed bag and we'll see what happens.
Congratulations again. I'm Vaughn Freeman from Odyssey, which is formerly CBS Media, and we partnered up with Live Nation in Tortuga, had a really successful national contest and a pre-party at the Hard Rock. We logged in 15 million media impressions for our national giveaway over 20 markets. Our country music stations are number one in like New York, Chicago, all over the United States. And if anybody needs to know where those country music fans are, really love Fort Lauderdale right now. So we're bringing back Stars and Strings, and we currently plan on doing a 500,000 media impressions across the nation starting in July. We've already booked Dierks Bentley. We'll make these announcements in July. Dierks Bentley, Zach Top, who's this up and coming. Remember, I said Zach Top. He's going to be up and coming huge. Hardy and Nate Smith and 4 other performers, and we're raising money for Folds of Honor during November, which is, as we know, Veterans Month. So that'll hopefully be working with Visit Lauderdale and be promoting Hollywood and Fort Lauderdale in the process.
Bob Kiesler, Hotel Consulting. I'm hearing basically the same thing from some of the people I've worked with in Arizona, upstate New York. Everybody's in a wait and see holding pattern, hoping for the best. So hopefully we will change all that out. That's it, Jim.
Jim Pankello, Lagomar Resort. Again, we see business all the way through June. But after that, drops off big time. July, it has been in the past one of our busiest occupancy months. The soccer games is full. We see pickup on those weekends whenever there's a soccer game. The other thing that happens too is that whenever hurricane, we talked about this before, whenever a hurricane is mentioned, we start losing business. Right now, if you saw the news, we are supposed to be getting the biggest seaweed ever in Florida. Well, last year they said the same thing. We're going to get that seaweed. It never happened. So that's something to keep an eye on. Tariffs. Some of our vendors are starting to charge tariffs, which is an expense that we thought would come, but now it's coming on some of the vendors. As everybody heard, we were named one of the top beaches in the country by TripAdvisor, which is a great news for us. And that's it.
Tom Park, Beach House, Fort Lauderdale, Hilton Resort. We just did the conversion less than a month ago. Thank goodness to AI, absolutely seamless, without a glitch. We remain a Hilton, but we're kind of prototype to the future. I say it often, I hear comments, some of it is parallel to it, and then there's other things that we kind of go off. First trimester, very strong. We are beating budget successfully. I am worried about May and June. We are removing risk in those months, but we're also hearing from the brand that trends, if you're looking at business trends for the rest of the year, the last 2 years, July was the strongest domestic flights offshore, going either into the Caribbean or Europe. That trend is reversing, and that trend is going to be shown that we may see some domestic travel remain in the U.S. So, in as much as we are looking at a soft May and June results, we are looking for a more upbeat July and early August. We are very optimistic for third trimester. Similar to what I've heard around the table, we have strong group business. We're not a group hotel, but coupled with that, our rates tend to be holding against the comp set. So in as much as we see a soft demand currently, we see a strong demand returning second or later in the year. With that, food and beverage has been strong, very strong. And we, even though with the soft May and June, our forecast food and beverage remains very good. So again, really odd numbers to play with in running the businesses, but food and beverage has really been very profitable for us and remains to be that strong revenue driver for July, June, and May. Thank you.
Change your name.
Good morning, Bobby Rodriguez, Florida Renaissance Festival. I recently, last week, met with a number of organizers throughout the state of Florida, event organizers and festival organizers. And it seems that due to the uncertainty of the economy at this point, that in the last 6 to 8 weeks, a lot of the events and festivals that have been going on have been down. Hopefully that will turn around. But the good news is the Florida Renaissance Festival, which ended about 6 weeks ago, had its third banner year in a row. And I'm recovering from that now, so.
Thank you.
At Sawgrass at our park in the Everglades, we're getting ready to embark on approximately 2 to 3 years of a several $1 million investment in our exhibit areas, which now belongs to our Nature Foundation. So all of our adopted and rescued reptiles fall under our foundation, which also hosts low-income schools for free field trips out to the Everglades and a lot of other initiatives that we're excited about. So that's fun for us. We're gonna bring in some outside companies to help us with some design and some of the construction, which is fun for me because we've always done 100% of that, all the heavy lifting ourselves. So it's kind of nice to be able to play in that world. Not quite the $100 million, but a baby few $1 million, which is fun for us. We had a very relatively strong winter and spring. I was stressing about the daily numbers up and down compared to the prior year, but I felt so much better when I look back at 2019 and just skipped last year's information. It's probably not how most people do data, but we are still really outpacing 2018 and 2019 in that pre-pandemic when the numbers weren't so crazy. So that's really nice to see, and that made me feel better. So I'm going to pay attention to those numbers instead. And we are leaning into some local marketing efforts. We've seen the downturn, much like all of you. So we're working hard on getting all of our great visitors from South Florida to come visit since we're so close, and also encourage them just from the West Coast or slightly to the north to hopefully come and include an overnight to come and stay. And so far, our group booking requests are staying strong, but we've noticed they've fallen off as well. So we're going to do everything we can to kind of pivot and keep our numbers up as best we can, because I've got some very high payroll numbers that I've promised people, and I intend on filling those promises. So we'll do what we can, but so far for our little business, we're holding strong.
Morning, everyone. Raymond Story, City of Hollywood. I'll start with a couple of kind of government notes. The city's in our budget season, preparing the budget for next year. And so in that regard, we're watching very closely what the county is doing and how they're forecasting. Also, very mindful of what's happening at the state legislature right now, and conversations regarding property taxes are being closely monitored by local government, as that's one of our largest sources of revenue. So those are kind of things we're paying attention to. We have a new parking garage that just completed construction in our downtown. Parking has been a little bit challenging in that area for a while, and that's 365 new parking spaces that will help to service the downtown restaurants and hopefully make that a little easier, as well as the downtown arts park. Our art and culture center has a significant expansion going on right now, and that is slated to be finished later this summer. So that is a positive. And on the fun note side, this in the next day or two, we are partnering with the Ocean Rescue Alliance, and we're deploying 40 reef modules, some of them artistic, celebrating the city's 100th centennial celebration. It's sponsored in part by the Diplomat and a couple of other folks, and it will be a near-shore reef that people will be able to swim to and snorkel these. There's also going to be a live camera feed on that reef So it will be kind of cool too. There's mermaids and underwater divers and a big 100 and a lot of cool stuff. So I think it'll be great for social media, and the deployment should be pretty cool as well. So that's taking place. And then also La Tub restaurant that gained sort of national, maybe even international fame back several decades ago for having the best burger in the United States, is celebrating its 50th anniversary. That's next weekend. They're having a big beach celebration at La Tub restaurant, and they'll be having events on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Okay.
I know, can I make one comment?
Absolutely.
For Visit Lauderdale? I was mentioning the Panthers thing, and I talk about we, and usually we, when I'm thinking we, it means pretty much everybody here, because we don't do anything on our own. And so with the Panthers video, if you look at that, I owe a tremendous thanks to Visit Lauderdale. They gave us the B-roll that's in that. When Matthew's not on, the B-roll's on. And it's the beaches, it's the hotels. You can only do so much with a downtown skyline or business skyline and business pictures. But that view of what we're showing when he's talking about being here came from Visit Lauderdale. And I really, and we do really appreciate that, and all the partnerships we have with y'all, and also the port and airport, Ellen, Selena, putting things through their social media. And we've got stuff at the airport right now, and the baggage going with the video. So thanks to everybody. That's not just us doing this.
And I did want to make mention last night, Fort Lauderdale got a lot of pub on NBC because Adam David won The Voice last night, and he's from Fort Lauderdale, local performer. So
Great.
Cool.
Didn't know if everybody saw that.
Any other old new business to come before the group? All right, I want to acknowledge, first of all, everyone for being here. We had a forum, yay. And also the entire Sparks Visit Lauderdale Airport Port team for reporting today and all the work you're doing, guys. Listen, we've all been through ups and downs, okay? If you remember what it was like when COVID hit, right? So we will persevere and survive. We've got great people in this marketplace. We have a great destination, and we will weather whatever comes our way. And at the end of the day, it is us, okay? We're a wonderful, welcoming destination to people all over the world. And for those you that don't know, Richard Gray is getting a star on Fort Lauderdale Beach at the Great American Beach Party this coming weekend on Saturday. So that's a great kudos for our LGBTQ, whatever it is, plus community, and actually getting recognized on Fort Lauderdale Beach for the impact that Richard has had, but also that market in our destination. Okay, so I think the ceremony itself is between 2 and 3. He's not the only person getting a star, but he's our person, folks. Okay, so just want to let you all know that. And I think that's it. So do I have a motion for adjournment, please? Everyone wants to stay here. Move to adjourn. Okay, thank you very much.